Hey guys, welcome back to the studio. Some people who make videos have special soundproof rooms with huge microphones in front of their faces and all sorts of high technology, don't they? We have the rice fields. So, with no planning at all, this video had no planning at all. I just came from City Hall and just so much, so much going on, had to make a video about it. Just as such a classic example of what Japanese life is like and bureaucracy and so on, you know. So, uh, first of all, just for those of you who missed the video, about 5, 6 years ago, they brought in the My Number card into Japan. And so basically what some people would call a social security number or a tax file number, they call it in some countries. Different countries call it different things. So these guys brought in this, the Japanese government brought in this card that they could basically use to track people's tax income and different things like that. So that was only 5 or 6 years ago, and at the time we all had to fill out pages and pages of paperwork, as you'd expect, and there was a whole heap of paper wasted and faffing around for every human being in Japan. Every man, woman and child in Japan had to do it, or their parents had to do it in the case of the kids. So that was only 5 or 6 years ago. So we used up a forest of paper for that exercise and got our My Number card. And then since then, you can't start a job or do anything else here without your My Number card. And then recently, the government decided that they wanted to make the My Number card for everything, because we had the My Number card and we had our government health insurance card and we had different cards. So they decided they wanted to use it for lots of things. And obviously it means they can link all the computer systems together as well to track what we're doing and make sure we're all doing the right things and so on. So we all received a big envelope full of paper. Now, we talked about this recently for something else, but this huge envelope full of paper turned up for everyone in the household, right? So every man, woman and child in Japan received a big envelope full of paper. And in there was pages of setsume, pages of explanation, right? And then pages of forms to fill out. And they wanted to make it a photo ID version this time. So you had to have a passport photo at the top, and then you had to fill out all the information, which they already had, right? Of course, because they already had the My Number card. All they really wanted to do was to add a photo to it. The number itself stayed the same. All they really wanted to do was to take it from being a fairly flimsy little plastic thing to a more substantial, more like a credit card with a photo on it. That's all they wanted to do. But, as is typical of the way they do things here, you know, a page of paper for every man, woman and child with all the setsume and all the rest of the forms to fill out. So we had to fill out all the forms and put on the photo and send it off to them, right? And then back it comes, another envelope with a bunch of setsume and another card, another piece of paper, and it said, okay, so, you know, we got your paper that you sent us for the new My Number card, and so now what you need to do is you need to phone City Hall and make an appointment to go to City Hall and pick up your new card and get the setsume, get the explanation. And again, this means so far, how many is that? 3 envelopes full of paper, and then every man, woman and child in Japan has to go to City Hall to pick up this card and hear the setsume, right? Hear the explanation. So, okay, phoned up City Hall, made an appointment, right, for 11 o'clock this morning, and then turned up at City Hall 11 o'clock this morning. One good thing that happened was, hadn't been to that particular new City Hall before, and there's a big long counter with lots of signs, and I was like, which one do I have to go to? And a lady, there's hundreds of bureaucrats sitting behind the table, behind the counter, and a lady came over and said, you're here for your My Number card, because she'd been ready for me to come and knew 11 o'clock, and she had my photo, so she knew, you know, not many look like this. So, you know, that was a good thing. But then, please come over here, and they have like these little mini offices, basically, with just petitions so that, you know, privacy, right? And sit down there, and she said, so I have to, first of all, she needed my old My Number card, because they're going to destroy that, and the other card that they'd sent me, another piece of paper that they'd sent me, and then I need to look at your face, take your mask off, because we're still wearing masks here, that's another video, and oh yes, okay, it's really you, And then okay, would you like the setsume in Japanese or English? Right, the setsume, the explanation. And I said, oh, Japanese will be okay, because I was sort of curious. And so she's brought out 4 pages of setsume, right, which the plan was to give it to me, right? And in most countries, if there's some explanation needed and they give you the paper, that's it, isn't it? But in Japan, as I've talked about so many times before, they can't just give you the paper with the explanation on it. They've got to read the whole thing to you, right? And so she had to sit there and read 4 pages of explanation to me about what the rules and the guidelines and all this unnecessary stuff, because it's not really much different. What we use it for isn't much different from the old one. It's just the only difference is it's got a picture on it, right? Couple of funny things in there. One of them was, if you lose it, there's 3 things you must do. If you lose this card, you must first phone this number and tell the people on that number that you've lost the card. The second thing you must do is report it to the police, right? Like, how many, 127 million people in Japan, how many of them are going to lose this card, right? And that's the other thing about this bureaucratic nonsense that they do, is that it creates more and more, doesn't it? So 3 steps. First one is you've got to phone this number and report it missing. Then you've got to go to the police and report it missing. Then you've got to come to City Hall and pay 1,000 yen, which is $10, and fill out a form at least to get a new one, right? Which, how much of the police time is that going to waste? 127 million people. People are going to be losing this card every day, aren't they? Different people, you know. And it's just insane. So the whole thing took about 20 minutes. And at the end of it, I said to her, you have to do this for every person in this town. And she said yes. It's like, so 127 million people in Japan. Obviously, the little kids, they're not going to do the setsume to them, but the kids still have to go with the adults to pick up the card. And that's the other silly thing. I couldn't pick up my wife's card and the kids' cards. You know, she has to go and pick up the card herself, and we've got to take the kids if we want to pick up the card, and we just haven't bothered. But we've got to do it at some time, you know, because that's their plan, is that slowly. At the moment, there's some silly incentive. If we do it now, we can use the card to get discounts at convenience stores or something, as an incentive to motivate people to do it. But obviously, eventually, they're just going to say you can't do anything without your My Number card, and you're going to have to go and get it. But how much time is this wasting? You know, I wish I'd kept all the paper to show you, because over the last 5 years, you know, from the first time we filled out all the forms to then this last round of paper, and then, because at the end of her big setsume, she gives you the 4 pages that she just explained. It's, you know, it's all pointless. So they're wasting tons and tons of paper. There's obviously, who knows, thousands of bureaucrats sending all this paper out, and then thousands of bureaucrats taking all those phone calls to make all those appointments for you to go and have the explanation, and thousands of bureaucrats wasting their time explaining all this stuff to people. And, you know, just the whole thing, you can see the ridiculousness of it. I mean, there's only 50,000 people in this town. You should see that City Hall. Walked in there today, and it's just, behind the counter is just rows and rows and rows of desks. It's like out of some sort of funny, strange movie, futuristic movie, with all these robotic people, and just this huge open space of desks with just rows and rows and rows of people sitting there looking at screens, you know. And it's just, this is a new City Hall. The old one, I went there, you know, I used to go there. I'm sure I've told you about this. You go there and ask a question, and that person, same as the banks, and that person goes and asks the person above them, and you can watch it happening because it's a big open space. And that person asks the person above them, and they're not really sure, and so they go to the person above them. You know, it's just this huge thing. And the Japanese government, I made a video recently, and it was Paperless Japan, the myth, right? Exactly this topic. The same national government that talks about the paperless Japan thing is the same Japanese government that's brought all this nonsense to you that I told you about. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I don't particularly care. Some people say you shouldn't complain, you shouldn't. Not complaining, it's just amazing, right? It's not, You know, I don't care. I don't care if they burn. Well, I sort of do. I mean, it's not good for the environment, but you know, the waste of paper and the waste of time, and it's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. You cannot believe it. You know, and when you think that you can't believe what they're doing, and then they do it further, and it's like, you know, really? We didn't spend enough time and paper on this already. We've got to do it all again to a higher level. It's been more faffing this time. I think last time they just sent us the card. When they did it 5 or 6 years ago, when it was just the card with no photo on it, I think they just sent it to us. I wonder if that truck's going to keep going. Because I'm pretty... Can you see the truck? Because I'm sort of blocking the road. Nobody sort of comes here normally. Oh, that's lucky. So, yeah, so that's it. I mean, over the last, you know, we've made lots of videos talking about the bureaucracy in Japan, and this is a classic example. And it's also a classic example why I said paperless Japan was a myth. I mean, it's sort of a noble, worthwhile goal to you know, to be able to make everything paperless. And that new city hall is full of computers. Oh, that was the other thing. You got to have a secret number, right? So we had to write our secret number on our first application, and then when the piece of paper came again, we had to write our secret number on that. And then again today, today actually had to fill out another form. When I sat down, after all those forms and everything else that we'd already had, she said, can you fill out this form with your name and address and all your other details to show that you've picked up your card? And it's like, you know, another piece of paper. And then did all that, and then there was a big computer screen, touch screen, and can you enter your codes into the computer to show that you've picked up your card? So there's two things. The paperless thing was to enter the number into this screen to show that I picked up the card, but we also had to have a piece of paper filled out to show that we picked up the card. It's just, you cannot believe the levels when you just like, I can't believe this, and then there's another step and another step and another step. It just leaves you shaking your head. I was actually laughing when she said, can you take off your mask to show so I can see that, you know, the face is the same? I was actually laughing when I took off the mask. Had a big smile on my face because I was finding it unbelievable. I thought after all the paper and all the faffing that we'd done already, just walking in there today, they'd just give it to you. They'd look at it, go, yeah, that's you. Here's your card. But no, 20 minutes of faffing and Setsume, the explanation thing, and the paper and the filling out the forms. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And unfortunately, we're not allowed to use cameras in places like that, because I'd love to go in there with a GoPro mounted on me so you guys could see it, because you would not believe it. It doesn't matter how much you know that Japanese bureaucracy is like this, or how much wasteful it is and faffing it is. No matter how much you know that already, they never cease to amaze you, you know. It's like, you know, here's a person who's made countless videos about this topic over the years, and I'm still amazed. They can still amaze you with their level of nonsense, you know. Unbelievable. So, I mean, it keeps people employed. That's wonderful. You know, the paper makers, people who make paper, they're guaranteed of a job, because as I said in the paperless myth video, these guys aren't going paperless. No time soon. You know, here they are with all the technology and the touch screens, and they've still got mounds of paper. There must be massive rooms in every city hall in Japan just full of paper, because all the paper that we fill out, in police stations too, must just be boxes and boxes and boxes of paper all piled up in mountains somewhere, because we fill out all these forms and they keep them apparently. So anyway, it's better out here. It's better out here than it was in City Hall, for sure. Anyway, these videos are sort of partly for people who are interested in Japan, to give them, you know, the full picture of what Japan's really like, but also for people who might be coming here in the future, because you've got to prepare yourself. I walked into that place thinking, it's possible I'll just go, oh yeah, that's you, here you are. But I prepared myself and thought there's a very good chance there's going to be a lot of faffing here and patience will be required. So you sort of prepare yourself when you're going into an environment like that. You prepare yourself because you know there's going to be faffing and patience will be required, because it's so frustrating. So I was like, come on, you know, do you have to read me that 4 pages? Just give it to me and I'll take it home, you know. But no, big set to me. Anyway. All right, well, that's enough of that. More videos coming soon.